Tampa Bay entered this offseason needing their entire interior offensive line to either be re-signed or replaced. And two of those guys aren't going to get re-signed, but one is, and that is Ryan Jensen, who's probably the most important piece of that puzzle, I would say, because Marpet wasn't coming back. So let's talk about what he brings to Tampa Bay. Okay, let's start off with a play like this. This is kind of, listen, if you're going to be an interior offensive lineman, whether it's center or guard, what you're going to need to be able to do is do these double teams, where you start off double teaming someone, but then still get up to the second level. And this is something that Tampa Bay requires a lot out of their offensive linemen, and Jensen was able to do. He's capable of doing this stuff consistently. So what's going to happen here is you see the way it works, where you basically just push aside the interior defensive lineman, but then you have to get up and block the linebacker. You have to get up and block number 4 there for Carolina. That is Jermaine Carter. So not exactly a star here, but that's less relevant to what I'm talking about. The main thing I'm mostly paying attention to is just going to be how he gets to that second level, not so much who he's actually going up against. Look at how he is going to be able to, the first beginning part kind of got screwed up and he didn't miss a beat. Right off the bat, so Yetur Gross-Matos, number 97, you saw how he kind of just blew up that play, but Jensen said, okay, whatever, you're out of position anyways, let me get up, let me block the guy I gotta block. And that's kind of what I feel like Jensen has always done well. Is football, we kind of think of it as a very X's and O's technical sport, but it isn't. And a lot of times weird stuff happens. A lot of times things don't go exactly according to plan, and being a guy who can just improvise like that, like Jensen can, is valuable. He also pulled off this block very well. So again, he did every single part right, even get a little shove in at the end. You definitely see that when watching Jensen, even if you're not watching his tape, just watching his, watching him live on the broadcast, he plays of an edge. There's no denying that. I think something like this is probably a better example of more of a traditional play. It's kind of a similar play to the last one I showed you, but where at the last one you saw Jensen make a block and then get up to the second level. This time it's someone else. It's his right guard is going to make a block and get up to the second level. Jensen here, his job is to maintain the block with the guy who I've highlighted in yellow right there in that yellow box, and watch him be able to really pull this off very well. He shoves Roy, that's the guy who's going up against 93, out of the way pretty consistently, and allowed his guard to also have time to get up and be able to potentially make his block. Now, wasn't able to quite work out that way. The tackle was made, but still, it was a good play by Jensen. Jensen did his role, and that's all we're evaluating here is how did Ryan Jensen play? Well, this is definitely something in the positive column. I think something like this is, quite frankly, this is one of the biggest things I want to see when I'm evaluating a center is how do you do against blitzes? Because traditionally, what do you do in football? Traditionally, there's 4 guys who rush the passer, and so therefore you have both your guards and both your tackles take on one of the, they each take on one of those defensive linemen, and the center will just help out one of the guards, because as a center, obviously you have to have your hand down. Just takes you a little extra half second to get that hand up, get in position to make that block, and because of that, it's easier to have you be a part of a double team as opposed to you have to block somebody one-on-one. However, of course, on a blitz, like what this is, you can have someone line up right on the center and say, hey, let's go. I'm going to rush the passer, and you're going to have to be able to block one-on-one. And in these situations, I think you see teams with lesser centers sometimes really struggle because, again, it's a hard block to make for Ryan Jensen in this situation. It's not easy. However, watch how Jensen is going to do a great job of just being able to pull off this block, and really there was no pressure at all. And listen, some people will sit here and say, okay, it's a lot easy. It's not so difficult to, not give up pressure when Tom Brady is your quarterback. And there's some truth to that. Obviously, pressure and sacks, some element of that is on the quarterback. Brady notoriously gets rid of the ball. I guess not notoriously, but Brady is well known for his ability to get rid of the ball quickly. So you could view that as a hindrance on Jensen, but he's played in several different systems. He's played with different quarterbacks. He played with Jameis Winston, who certainly did not get rid of the ball quickly. So I wouldn't consider that a particularly fair criticism, and I wouldn't really think of that as a reason to not pay him. And also some stuff like this. This is going to be a one-on-one block, this time in the running game, and this is another good example of what he can do. I think that he's someone who you don't have to get him to need help. Like, you don't need to help him out. He can do stuff on his own. watch him just, I mean, he's going to easily be able to pull this block off. I mean, he didn't really even have to try too much. So this goes for a touchdown right here for the Buccaneers. Obviously, like, you can't credit all of that with Ryan Jensen, but he certainly played a role, and he did his part on that. So good stuff by Jensen there to be able to pull off that block. So that was definitely very good. And again, it just helps you when you have a center who you can say, you know, we don't need to help. We don't have a weakness here. Let's use everyone else how we want to use them and just let Ryan Jensen go to work. And that's what they can do. Also, a move like this is one of Jensen's favorites, where you sometimes see people, again, when there is a one-on-one block with a center, you're not going to have much space to try and pull it off. But sometimes defensive tackles will try to get creative with that little bit of space and still try to see if they can use athleticism. Look at how right when this play begins, you see Daquan Jones here for the Carolina Panthers. That's kind of what he's doing. He's trying to pull off this swim move against Jensen. So it's not the worst idea in the world, right? If you had to pick one negative that you can have with Jensen, it probably would be the fact that he's not the most athletic center. He's not like bad, but that's certainly not a strength. But watch him be able to just get the hand placement he wants and just shove Jones aside, ends up taking him to the ground right there. So that's just kind of what he can do. His hands can always get you to come back no matter what situation you're in. He has very good hands, and that's why he's a Pro Bowler. That's why he's a very good player. So yeah, I mean, listen, as a whole, you know, it's the entire interior offensive line that needs to be replaced, right? But getting this first key piece, and I think one of the huge aspects of this with the Brady and Jensen thing, you know, with Brady coming back, like, Brady doesn't want to have to work with a rookie center, you know? He doesn't want to have to, you know, deal with that potential missteps that can happen. Get a center who you know you work well with, although Jensen has had some bad snaps in his day. At least you know how to work with him, and obviously he can block very well, which is the main point of a center, is to block, of course. So that's kind of the main thing that I think that adding Jensen really is going to bring to Tampa Bay, and why he is such an important piece. The figure itself, you're paying him $13 million a year for 3 years, so you know, it's a little bit of money. You're paying him decent money. I mean, that's good center money. There's no denying that. But they can make the cap work. That's the thing, is you can push that money down the road, and especially a team like Tampa, who legitimately has kind of an all-in year at this point, just right ahead of yourself of like, listen, maybe Brady would play another year. Who knows at 46? But you do what you can to get your team as good as possible this year. Worry about next year. Next year seems to be the mindset. So if you have to push some money down the road, that's what I would do. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about this Ryan Jensen move. I like it. As a Buccaneers fan, I like him. I'm happy that he's back. It makes our team better. So that's the goal there. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.